The intervention was scheduled for 3 p.m. on a Sunday, because apparently that's when dreams go to die in the Harrison household. I walked into our family's formal dining room to find them all assembled like a tribunal. Mom at the head of the table in her pearl necklace and disappointed expression. Dad adjusting his reading glasses with that particular mixture of concern and condescension. My older brother Trevor in his perfectly pressed polo shirt, and his wife Amanda clutching her designer purse like it might shield her from my apparent failure. "Sit down, Victoria," Mom said, gesturing to the chair they'd positioned directly across from everyone else. The defendant's chair. "We need to talk." I'd seen this coming for months, ever since I'd moved into that modest studio apartment downtown and started driving my beat-up Honda instead of the BMW Dad had bought me in college. Ever since I'd stopped asking them for money and started showing up to family dinners in jeans instead of the business casual they expected from their investment banker daughter. Well, former investment banker daughter. At least, that's what they thought. "Victoria," Dad began, removing his glasses to clean them, his signature move before delivering bad news. "We're concerned about you. It's been 8 months since you left Goldman Sachs, and frankly, we're not seeing any progress." Trevor leaned forward, his expression a perfect blend of brotherly concern and superiority. "Tori, we know you're going through something. The quarter-life crisis thing, we get it. But you're 29 years old. You can't keep floating around pretending to be some kind of entrepreneur. The stuff you're doing on your computer all day," Amanda chimed in, her voice dripping with barely concealed disdain. "Day trading or whatever. That's not a career. That's gambling." I almost laughed. Day trading. If only they knew. "We've been patient," Mom continued, her voice taking on that tone she used when I was 12 and had tracked mud through her pristine kitchen. "But enough is enough. This family has a reputation to maintain. When people ask what my daughter does for work, I shouldn't have to make excuses." "What exactly do you think I do all day?" I asked, genuinely curious about their perception of my life. Honestly, Trevor shifted in his chair, getting comfortable for what was clearly going to be a lengthy explanation of my failures. "We think you're depressed. You barely leave that tiny apartment. You dress like you're still in college. And you drive a car that's older than some of the interns at my firm. You used to have such potential," Dad added, his voice heavy with disappointment. "Summa cum laude from Wharton, top of your class at Goldman's training program. You were on track to make managing director by 35. And now look at you." Mom gestured vaguely in my direction. "Living like a graduate student, spending all day staring at computer screens, refusing to network or even update your LinkedIn profile." Amanda nodded vigorously. "Trevor's been asking around. His connections at Goldman say you haven't even been applying for positions. It's like you've given up entirely." The irony was almost too much to bear. They thought I'd given up, when in reality, I'd never been more focused in my entire life. While they'd been worrying about my LinkedIn profile, I'd been building something they couldn't even comprehend. "So here's what's going to happen," Mom announced, clearly having rehearsed this moment. "We've set up interviews for you at 3 different firms. Dad pulled some strings. I don't need." "Yes, you do." Her voice cut through mine like a blade. "Victoria, we're not asking. We're telling. You're going to interview at Merrill Lynch on Tuesday, JP Morgan on Thursday, and Goldman wants you back. They'll start you as a VP if you can prove you're serious." Trevor pulled out a folder. Of course he had a folder. And slid it across the table. "I've taken the liberty of updating your resume. Obviously, we've had to get creative with the employment gap. but we're calling it independent financial consulting. We've also found you a proper apartment," Amanda added, producing her phone to show me listings. "There's a beautiful 2-bedroom in Dad's building. Much more appropriate for someone of your background." "The Honda has to go," Dad said flatly. "I'm not having my daughter drive around town in a 15-year-old car with a dent in the bumper. There's a BMW dealership right by the office. We can go tomorrow." I stared at them all. These 3 people who thought they knew exactly what was best for me, who had reduced my entire existence to a series of problems that needed their solutions. They saw my modest lifestyle as failure, my independence as delusion, my contentment as depression. "And if I refuse?" I asked quietly. The silence that followed was deafening. "Then we're done enabling you," Mom said finally. "No more family dinners until you get your act together. No more invitations to holidays or events. And absolutely no financial support if you change your mind about needing help. Victoria," Dad's voice was gentle but firm, "we love you, but we can't watch you waste your life anymore. You're intelligent, you're educated, you have every advantage in the world. There's no excuse for living like this." "Living like what, exactly?" "Like a failure," Trevor said bluntly, "like someone who's given up on having any real impact on the world." That's when my phone buzzed. I'd been expecting the call, 3rd Sunday of the quarter, always right around 3 p.m. Eastern. My investment banker at Goldman Sachs, ironically enough, though he worked in a completely different division than where I used to be employed. "Excuse me," I said, glancing at the caller ID. "I need to take this." "Victoria, we're in the middle of a serious conversation," Mom protested. "I know," I answered the phone. "Marcus, perfect timing." "Ms. Harrison, I have fantastic news." Marcus Chen's voice was practically vibrating with excitement. "Your hedge fund just cleared $3.8 billion in profits this quarter. The quantum computing investments you made 18 months ago are paying off spectacularly. Microsoft's acquisition of that startup you backed early has alone generated nearly $800 million in returns." The room had gone completely silent. I looked at my family's shocked faces and smiled. "That's wonderful news, Marcus. Put it on speaker so my family can hear the details." "Of course. Ms. Harrison, your fund, Apex Capital Management, has officially become one of the top 10 performing hedge funds in North America. The artificial intelligence healthcare portfolio is up 340% year over year, and the renewable energy investments had exceeded all projections." Trevor's mouth was hanging open. "What about the real estate acquisitions?" I asked, maintaining eye contact with my mother. "Extraordinary. The commercial properties in downtown Chicago are now valued at $1.2 billion, and the Manhattan portfolio has appreciated 85% since you purchased it. Oh, and congratulations on the Forbes 30 Under 30 feature coming out next month. They called you the most innovative hedge fund manager of the generation." Amanda's designer purse slipped from her lap and hit the floor. "Marcus, can you remind me of our current assets under management?" "Absolutely. As of market close on Friday, Apex Capital Management oversees $12.7 billion in assets. Your personal net worth, including your holdings in the fund and real estate portfolio, is approximately $4.1 billion. You're officially one of the youngest billionaires in financial services history." The silence in the room was profound. "Thank you, Marcus. Email me the quarterly report, and let's schedule a call tomorrow about the biotech opportunities we discussed." "Will do, Ms. Harrison. Oh, and the Treasury Secretary's office called. They'd like to schedule a meeting about your proposal for sustainable banking regulations. Apparently, your white paper on cryptocurrency integration has caught their attention. Perfect. Have Sarah set something up for next week. I hung up and looked at my family. Dad's glasses were fogged up. Mom's pearls seemed to have lost their luster. Trevor looked like he'd been hit by a truck. So, I said casually, settling back in my chair, what were you saying about my wasted potential? The folder with my updated resume sat unopened on the table between us. Victoria, Mom's voice was barely a whisper. I don't understand. How? When did you? Start a hedge fund. About 2 years ago. Right around the time you all started worrying about my career trajectory. I pulled out my phone and showed them the Apex Capital Management website, complete with my photo and biography. Turns out that gambling Amanda mentioned, I'm pretty good at it. Trevor finally found his voice. $4 billion. You have $4 billion. Give or take. The markets fluctuate. I shrugged. Though I should mention, Trevor, that your firm, Williamson and Associates, they're one of my clients. I've been managing about $200 million of their pension fund for the past 18 months. Your boss, Mr. Williamson, speaks very highly of my work. His face went from pale to green. But how? Dad asked, still struggling to process the information. How did we not know? How did you hide something this big? I didn't hide it. You just assumed that because I wasn't living the life you expected, I must be failing. When I moved into that studio apartment, it's because I wanted to stay focused and avoid distractions. When I started driving the Honda, it's because I believe in living below my means. When I stopped asking for money, it's because I was making my own. Amanda was staring at her phone, clearly having Googled my name. You're actually famous. Forbes, Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal. They've all written articles about you. The mysterious fund manager who came out of nowhere. I nodded. That's what they called me. Though I suppose it was only mysterious to people who weren't paying attention. Mom looked like she was going to cry. Victoria, why didn't you tell us? When? During the quarterly family dinners where you spent the entire time asking when I was going to get a real job. Or maybe during the phone calls where you worried about my concerning lifestyle choices. I kept my voice gentle but firm. Mom, I tried to share what I was doing. Remember last Christmas when I mentioned the quantum computing investment? You told me I was playing with money I couldn't afford to lose. We were trying to protect you, Dad said weakly. From what? From success? From independence? From proving that your way isn't the only way to build a career. Trevor was still staring at the website on my phone. The real estate portfolio. You own half of downtown Chicago. Not half. About 15%. Though I am in negotiations to acquire the building where your firm has its offices. I smiled at him. Don't worry. I'm not planning to raise your rent. Family discount. The intervention that was supposed to save me from my failures had turned into something else entirely. My family sat in stunned silence, trying to reconcile the daughter they thought they knew with the billionaire hedge fund manager sitting across from them. The BMW, Amanda said suddenly. You could buy a fleet of BMWs. I could, but I like my Honda. It's reliable, it gets good gas mileage. And it reminds me that wealth doesn't have to define how you live. I looked around the table at each of them. That's something I learned watching all of you, actually. How unhappy expensive things can make you if you're trying to impress people instead of being authentic. Mom's perfectly composed facade finally cracked. Victoria, I'm so sorry. We thought. We were so worried. I know you were. And I understand why. From the outside, my life probably did look concerning. But maybe that's the lesson here. That success doesn't always look the way we expect it to. Dad cleared his throat, his business instincts finally kicking in. Victoria, this is extraordinary. I mean truly extraordinary. But why the secrecy? Why not include your family in your success? Because it wasn't about you, I said simply. For the first time in my life, I was building something that was entirely mine. Not Victoria Harrison, daughter of Robert Harrison, the real estate developer. Not Victoria Harrison, sister of Trevor Harrison, the corporate lawyer. Just Victoria Harrison, hedge fund manager. But we could have helped, Trevor protested. We have connections, resources. Trevor, in the last 2 years, I've had dinner with 3 Federal Reserve governors, advised 2 Senate committees on financial regulation, and been personally thanked by the president for my economic recovery proposals. I think I'm doing okay on the connection front. The magnitude of what I'd accomplished was finally sinking in for all of them. The Forbes 30 under 30, Mom said slowly. You're going to be on the cover? Next month's issue. The article focuses on how I've revolutionized sustainable investing. I pulled up the preview on my phone. They called me the conscience of Wall Street, which is ironic, considering you all thought I had abandoned Wall Street entirely. Amanda was furiously typing on her phone. Victoria, there are articles about you in the Financial Times, The Economist. How did we miss all of this? Because you stopped paying attention to what I was actually doing and started focusing on what you thought I should be doing. The room fell quiet again as the full weight of their misjudgment settled over them. Finally, Dad spoke. Victoria, can you forgive us? We thought we were helping, but clearly we were. Being parents, I finished. Overprotective, slightly overbearing parents who love me and want what's best for me, even if your definition of best needed some updating. Trevor looked at the folder he'd brought. My revised resume, carefully crafted to hide what he thought was a failure, but was actually the most successful period of my life. I feel like an idiot. Don't. You feel like a big brother who was trying to look out for his sister, even if your methods were a little heavy-handed. A little? Amanda laughed, and some of the tension finally broke. We staged an intervention for a billionaire. In my defense, Mom said, a small smile finally appearing on her face, you do drive a very concerning car for someone worth $4 billion. I'm thinking of upgrading, I admitted. Maybe something from this decade. Dad was studying the quarterly report Marcus had sent to my phone. Victoria, these returns are incredible. How did you know to invest in quantum computing before anyone else was talking about it? Because I spent 2 years at Goldman watching everyone chase the same opportunities. I realized that the real money was in technologies that were 3 to 5 years ahead of mainstream adoption. I leaned back in my chair, finally relaxing for the first time since I'd walked into the room. Plus, I had an advantage none of the other fund managers had. Which was? You all taught me to think long-term. Every family dinner where you talked about building generational wealth. Every lecture about the importance of patience and strategy. I was listening. I just applied it differently than you expected. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. The values they'd instilled in me had led to success beyond anything they'd imagined. But because that success didn't look like their success, they'd missed it entirely. So what happens now? Mom asked. With us, I mean. Are you still willing to be part of this family after we've been so ridiculous? I suggested. Mom, you're still my family. This doesn't change that. But maybe it changes how we talk to each other going forward. Meaning? Meaning maybe next time you're worried about my choices, you ask questions instead of staging interventions. Maybe you trust that I'm capable of making good decisions, even if they're different from the decisions you would make. Trevor nodded slowly. And maybe we celebrate your successes instead of trying to fix what we think are your failures. That would be nice. Dad was still staring at the numbers on my phone. Victoria, I have to ask, do you need anything from us? I mean, clearly not financial support, but actually, yes. I smiled at him. I need you to stop worrying about me. I need you to trust that I know what I'm doing. And I need you to understand that my version of success might not look like yours, and that's okay. Deal, Mom said immediately. Though I reserve the right to worry about you for non-financial reasons, like whether you're eating enough vegetables and getting proper sleep. That's fair. Mother's privilege. Amanda was still scrolling through articles about me. Victoria, there's a photo of you at some charity gala with. Is that the Secretary of Commerce? Probably. I attend a lot of those events. Networking, you know. I winked at Trevor. Turns out I'm pretty good at it when I'm not being told I need to network more. The afternoon that had started as an intervention about my failures had turned into something completely different. My family looked at me with new eyes, not as the disappointing daughter who'd lost her way, but as someone who'd found her own way and succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. One more question, Dad said. The studio apartment. Are you planning to move somewhere more appropriate for someone of your stature? I thought about my modest apartment with its single window overlooking the city, where I'd spent countless hours building my empire while my family worried about my lifestyle choices. You know what? I think I'll keep it. It reminds me of what's really important. I stood up, gathering my purse. Besides, some of the best work gets done in small spaces with minimal distractions. As I headed toward the door, Mom called after me. Victoria? Next Sunday dinner. Would you like to tell us about what you're working on now? I mean, really tell us. I turned back to look at them, my well-meaning, loving, completely humbled family. I'd love that, Mom. I've been working on something pretty exciting in sustainable agriculture technology. $4 billion is just the beginning. And with that, I left them sitting around their formal dining table, probably trying to figure out how they'd so completely misunderstood the daughter they thought they knew so well. The intervention was over, but our real relationship was just beginning.